Hi guys, welcome and welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me. Today we're going to do something that I said that you should do in certain situations, but then I realized that we don't actually have anything to show you exactly how to do that. So this made absolutely no sense. Today we're going to close the gap between two subjects in an image in Photoshop. Okay, so why would you do this? Well, I mean, to be honest, the most obvious reason why you would do this is if you were following my instructions from the Pets and People tips video, which was basically to, if you've got multiple subjects in an image, try and remove the gaps between them. And then obviously someone was like, how do I do that? And I was like, I've not covered this. So that's what we're doing here today. If you're new here, then hi, I'm Jess. If you want to join us along for this ride, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and just basically be a nice person. If you're not a nice person, need not apply, leave the building. Just saying. Okay, I am also, and I'm going to say this because I feel like I should and I need to, it's 2022 and there's not been a lot of editing tips coming out recently, say in the past like 5 months or so, and that's for a specific reason because basically every single time I release a new tip or a new technique or create a new process or whatever it might be, certain people copy exactly what we've done and reteach it as their own content, and it's really frustrating. But the more I've thought about it, the more I realised that that's for me and them to handle legally, and actually you guys shouldn't be penalised. So we're going to start reintroducing much more of the editing tips because it's you guys that benefit from that the most, and therefore I will deliver. So on the screen right now, you can see a picture of Alfredo and Beanie. This is, oh my goodness, when was this taken? Like early summer 2021. And I've used this image because it's probably one of the only ones I've got where we've got two subjects and a gap, right? This is a gap, there's a gap. This is the gap. So what I want to do is show you guys how you would take an image like this and close the gap down between the two subjects, because it is possible and it's really not actually that hard. So let's jump right in. First things first, with your background layer, go ahead and duplicate that. So you've got 2 copies. You need 2 copies of your background layer. That is step 1. It's kind of like step 1 of every single video I do, but hey ho, there we go. Right, so we've got 2 copies of our background layer. Then what we need to do with this one, I'm going to just call this empty. Because you'll see why. What we need to do is select and heal the dog that we want to move out of this entire image. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the lasso tool from up here, but you could use a select a mask, a select an expansion, you could do whatever you want to do. I'm going to use a lasso, and really badly, because this is me, and me with a lasso is always a bad call, I'm going to go ahead and select all of Beanie. This is Bright, by the way, Beanie Sprout. And when I've got her all selected, I'm going to go ahead and shift backspace to enable the fill. Make sure we've selected content aware and then click OK. That is step 2. So with this empty layer, so we're working on empty right now. By the way, if layers are just like baffling for you, go ahead and watch the Photoshop Basics video, which is on the channel. And if you need more help, then Photoshop for Beginners online course is also an option. That's something that we've got over on our website. So go ahead and have a look if you're interested. So with Beanie out of that, I then want to go ahead and just kind of like heal up this area because it looks pretty naff, right? So I'm going to go ahead and use the healing brush tool, which is this one. And go and change the size of that. Grab a selection by holding that Option or Alt on the keyboard. And then I'm just going to go ahead and sort of repair the flaw in this area. And we're making sure that we're not duplicating, cloning, making big mistakes anywhere. So we're just kind of layering over textures so that the general feel is reasonably realistic. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to be correct in terms of the focal plane. So what do I mean by that? Right, we've got out of focus, in focus, tiny weeny strip, and then out of focus. Before I did this healing, it was basically just out of focus, the whole thing, which is never going to look good. I'm less concerned about this area here, because this area here is going to still have Beanie in it when we put her back in. So I'm not that bothered about making this perfect. If you want to make it perfect, continue onwards to your heart's content. we need to move on to step whatever we're on now. I'm going to call this step number 3. Step number 3 is to go ahead and grab your background layer, make a copy of it. So I use Command J, move that background copy to the top of the layer stack, and we're going to call this one Bright, or whatever you want to call it. That's this dog's name. So when we've got Bright, I then want to go into Select and select a mask. And when we're in Select a Mask, I want to go ahead and grab the rectangle tool over here. Make sure the mode is on rectangle, and then I'm going to just draw a box around Bright, and that will help Photoshop select the right subject. So you can see Bright is selected. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab my Refine Edge tool, which is this one, and I'm going to go around and mask the subject. There are 2 videos on how to mask hair on the YouTube channel, so I'll link them in the description below, but I'll also link them above, and you guys can go and learn how to mask fur if you need to, okay? Then what I'm gonna go ahead and do is zoom in, because that was pretty atrocious, to be honest. Look at this selection, and I'm gonna touch it up using the brush tool. So I just wanna get like a reasonably good mask. Of course, perfect would be great, but perfection doesn't exist. So aiming for it is sometimes ridiculous. So we've got our selection. I'm not that fussed about the floor, and you'll see why. So we've got our selection. Then what I'm going to do is output it to a layer mask. That means that Bright, this layer, is literally just Bright. And we can move her around however we want. So what we can then do is close the gap, and I'm holding down Shift so that she moves just on one axis, the horizontal axis in this case. And I'm gonna move her so that the gap between her and Alfie is gone, right? So that they're overlapping quite considerably. Now, in this situation, now that they're overlapped, I can see that Alfie, the bottom of his paws is slightly higher up than Bright's. So I'm gonna actually move Bright a little bit higher up as well to kind of compensate for that differentiation in the floor. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab the mask, grab a brush, and using our masking theory, we can then just go ahead and find the break between Alfie and Bean, which is here, and decide how much of each one we want overlapping, right? So we could have this paw from Beanie, but we could have maybe like this edge from Alfie, and kind of mix and match the 2 together as you wish, right? So you want to change the hardness and the opacity of your brush to match the strength of the area that you're actually working with. And then do you remember I said I ignored the floor? Soft brush at about 80% is usually sufficient, and you just want to kind of blend the floor so that Beanie is grounded properly with how she was on the floor originally. And so you can touch it up as much as you need in terms of the mask in between, but we've gone from here to here and the gap is completely closed. If we're not happy with the background here because there's not enough detail, we can go back to our empty layer, have a look just at that by itself by holding down Option on the keyboard or Alt, grabbing the healing brush tool, cloning a little bit more in terms of the texture into that area. So when we've got that texture coming through, I'm just going to add a little bit more down here, not there though, because that's a duplication. When we've got that texture coming in here, then I want to go back to Bright, really quickly whiz around her with the brush, just to add back in that beautiful rim light coming through from the sunshine behind. Then add that back in as needed and make sure that our mask is complete and we've not lost any of Bean elsewhere to the background. And so that, guys, that is how you close a gap between subjects in Photoshop. So I'm going to carry on and edit this image, but I hope that that was helpful, and give it a go, have fun, just practice. The more you do, the better you'll get, and the more the more comfortable and confident you will be. Please do not forget to subscribe. It'd be really great to have you along for the ride. I release videos every single Friday, and I'll see you again really, really soon.